one of the big mistakes that I feel like people miss out on, especially in the commercial real estate business, is that they stop adjusting their goals after January 1st or 2nd, right? So they set these goals and say it's to make 100,000 bucks, whatever it is, and they set these goals to make 100 grand, which comes to about 8,400 bucks a month. I'm rounding, okay? Don't judge, but 8,400 bucks a month. And then some of you make, let's just say, you crush it, you knock it out of the park, and you make $30,000 in your first 60 days. You should be adjusting your goal, move it up, right? Adjust your goal up. But then it also works for the same way backwards, right? Which means if your goal is $100,000, okay, and you make nothing your first 90 days, let's say it's April 1st, it's a couple weeks ago, and you've made nothing, okay? I'm not telling you that you need to lower the target. I don't want you to lower it, but what I need you to think about is adjusting what you need to do in order to achieve it. What that means is if you made nothing by April 1st, you'd be, call it $25,000 behind schedule because it's 25 grand a quarter. So if you did not achieve your $25,000 in the first quarter, I highly recommend that you mentally adjust where you need to be. Okay, well then it's $100,000 divided into 9 months, which comes to about 11,111 bucks, which means that you need to adjust the work that you're doing. Because if you're still planning and trying to do the work that would help you earn 8,400 bucks a month or $8,334 a month, okay, but your goal is actually you need to hit 25% more, right? Because you haven't earned anything year to date, as an example, you actually need to adjust every single one of your metrics, the amount of calls you make, the amount of leads you're generating, the amount of appointments you're setting, the amount of offers you're submitting. You actually need to improve upon that number by an average of, I'm making some assumptions here, but roughly 25%. Because now you need to earn 100 grand in a shorter period of time, which means that you need to produce at a little bit higher of a level in a shorter period of time. Okay. But not enough people adjust their work ethic. They just do the same thing or roughly the same thing every day or every week, roughly, okay, throughout the whole year. And then the end of the year comes by and they're like, I didn't hit my goals. I only made 64,000 bucks. And I wonder why I didn't make 100 grand. Well, most of the time it's because you didn't do the actual work required in order to achieve your goal. Okay. Especially if you're not actually on track to achieve it. Because if you're behind schedule, you need to adjust. So just as an example, where if you wanted to make, let's say, $1 million, okay, $1 million in a year, in the first quarter, you only made 100,000 bucks in the first quarter instead of $100,000 or roughly 83,334 bucks a month, you'd be behind schedule a little bit. Okay. So you'd need to make 900 in 9 months, which is now, a little bit different than what you were assuming, which is another 25%. So no matter what, we're trying to just kind of show you, like, you need to stretch your activity. Not enough people are stretching the activity goal or the standard, right? You need to raise your standard if you're not actually on track for your goals. Now, look, if you've surpassed, right? We assumed in the very beginning example, if you've already surpassed your goal, then sure, you have the ability to be a little bit more relaxed, which I don't recommend. What I recommend is that you adjust your goals to upgrade to where your standard is. Because if you're surpassing your goal by 20%, you should raise your standard by 20%. Because then you'll see the return on investment, the return on effort faster. Okay, you'll start growing your business faster. Just because, maybe sometimes months, deals close luckily in some months, and then some deals fall apart in other months, right? It's about raising your level of standard. So we're going to talk about scheduling a little bit because I feel like people fall off the map when it comes to building the proper schedule to actually help them achieve their financial goals. So I'm going to give you two different schedules. One is if you're sub $100,000 a year, and one is going to be for if you want to make over $1 million, like try to make $500,000 to $1 million bucks a year. Okay. So I'm going to start with the 0 to 100 grand, right? Maybe even 200, depending on your price points, right? Depending on where you're at in your market. So many people, when you're first starting out in the commercial real estate space, you might not have a lot of buyers. Okay. So I have a lot of people who, they're like, hey, I make maybe some calls, maybe I don't make enough calls, right? But it's this duality, this balance of generating a ton of sellers, okay, every single day, which we're going to talk about exactly when to do that, but generating a ton of sellers all the time, every day, and then prospecting for buyers in addition to that, right? Or having buyers that you can then take those seller opportunities, bring it to them, and then try to get an offer on those deals. So we're going to talk about exactly what that process looks like. The process is, let's just say we take a Monday through Friday schedule. At the absolute latest, I would tell you 9 o'clock to get started. Highly recommend that you're getting started before that. Okay, I'd recommend that you're getting started at roughly 8 a.m. every day. at 8 a.m., you do your team meeting with yourself. Okay. You do a personalized meeting. Okay. This meeting is going to be somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes. The whole purpose of this personalized meeting. Okay. By the way, you would do the meeting if you have a team, you'd do the meeting if you're by yourself. Okay. It does not matter how many people are in your quote organization. You do a company meeting. That meeting is solely the purpose of it is to just to be prepared for what needs to be done today. So number one, I do my red flags, what absolutely needs to be handled within the next 15 minutes of me commencing this meeting before I get my day started. Two, I want to make sure that I review my pipeline review, okay, which is all my active listings, all my deals in contract, all my deals in attorney review, right? All the deals that hypothetically are closing this week, right? All the deals that have closed last week, so you can reach back out to those people, and all your hottest leads. You want to have that all on your pipeline. I want to know what my pipeline looks like. And I like to look at what my hottest leads look like, my hottest lead pipeline looks like, so I can gauge am I on track to hit my goal or not on track to hit my goal. Last thing is a to-do list. Make it easy. I don't want 17 things on it. I want 3 to 5 things that need to be done today. 3 non-negotiable things. The rest of it can just be like, long-term projects possibly. But just, things like, as an example, I want, simple things on there like 2 seller leads today, 1 true offer today. I need to call John Smith. I probably, to get that offer, whatever it is, like those small little tasks that 100% should get done today. You just want to make sure you get that done. That's all during your meeting. Your next, so that'll end by 8:15 at the latest. By 8:15 to 8:30, it's all about accomplishing your red flag activities. Okay, so that means a deal's going to die. If something's blown up, you got to call an attorney, send an email, do whatever. You got 15 minutes to handle 100% of your red flags, so that by 8:30 on the nose, you're already prospecting, okay? And by the way, I mean like 8:30 sharp, you're actually clicking start and you're prospecting, okay? That does not mean, right, by any means, that you're finally getting to Mojo or some dialer and you got to pull a lead list and whatever, and you finally start dialing by 9:30. No, I'm saying you're prospecting by 8:30. You're literally starting to speak to people at 8:30 in the morning. The only people who are sleeping past 8:30 are real estate agents and people who don't have jobs. So make sure you guys get on the phones ASAP. Next, by that 8:30, by the way, that 8:30 is going to take you to at least noon, and I probably even argue 1 p.m. The entire purpose of this time frame, by the way, is to get you to the point where you're generating 2 minimum seller leads a day. Now, some of my best agents on my team are generating 4, 5, or 6, or even 10 leads a day. Now, I want to understand something. When one of them comes to me and they say, yeah, I generated 8 leads today. 8 leads do not mean 8 unbelievable deals. These are 8 individuals, as an example, right, that are open to the idea of selling, and maybe 1 or 2 of them are decent. So just keep an idea that, like, I want you to, at the very beginning of your career, you could be less stringent or less strict with how good of a quality of a lead it is. And later in your career, I need you to be more and more and more strict. Because if you start counting crap stuff where John Smith, the seller, says, yeah, make me an offer. I declined an offer for 10 million. It's really worth 5 million. And you're like, oh, that's a lead. That's not a lead. Okay, let's just be honest. Like, that's not a lead. He declined an offer 2x the sales price. He's not interested in selling. He's pulling your chain. He's wasting your time. So I recommend you find at least minimum 2 sellers a day, 2 seller leads a day who are actually interested at a fair and reasonable price. Not steals, but fair and reasonable numbers. This is gonna take you to probably 12 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, if you're a little bit more seasoned, you can go to 12. If you're a little bit less seasoned, I go to 1-ish o'clock in the afternoon. Go longer if you need the business. You need more seller leads. Like you haven't been generating a lot. You need to go a little bit longer. Fine. A little bit shorter is okay for individuals who have been generating 2 seller leads a day every day. It's not really about the time. It's about generating those 2 seller leads a day. It's not about how many calls you make. It's about generating 2 seller leads every day. It's about how many conversations you have. It's about generating the 2 seller leads a day. Right? Everyone gets convoluted. They're like, oh yeah, I made 400 calls today. I'm like, how many people did you speak to? And they're like, 4. I'm like, how many leads did you get? And they're like, none. I'm like, I don't give a fuck how many calls you made, right? It actually means nothing, right? It's about how many leads did you get today. That is the big intention, right? Now remember, it's a duality type of business, right? That's the front end. Now it's the back end, which is now you got these seller leads. I would definitely take, by the way, 30 minutes to an hour every single day to do follow-up to make sure you're constantly in contact with the people, the hottest leads you got to be in touch with. Do that every day, which will take you to between 1 and 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This is the second piece of the business, which is the buyer business. And so many freaking agents, so many investors, so many wholesalers, there are so many individuals that screw this part up. Either they don't do it or they don't know how to do it effectively, and they actually don't see any progress. Because I know many agents I know many investors and I know many wholesalers who crush on the lead generation side. They knock it out of the freaking park. Good for them, right? They generate a ton of seller lead business, but they get no offers on any of the leads. And then they go an entire year and they barely sold maybe one deal. And they're like, oh man, this industry sucks. It's all about the industry, blah, blah, blah. It's not them, right? It's the industry. What we're going to shift here, okay? Again, this is for individuals sub 200K a year. You need to be spending an unreasonable amount of time, okay, from like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon till sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. at night, whatever it takes to get at least one minimum true offer signed a day, which basically means you drafted a letter of intent and send it to a buyer, right? A true buyer, a legitimate buyer. It's not a starter offer, a pre-negotiation offer like something like my team does all the time, right? This is a true legitimate buyer who's looking to make an offer on a property. It doesn't have to be full price. Okay, I need any reasonable number that they're willing to offer on the property. The problem most people have and what's holding them back from earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year at a minimum in the commercial real estate business, first is generating enough seller leads. But if they're doing that, second is generating enough true offers. So many brokers, investors, and wholesalers do not get enough offers on their product, and they're wondering where the freaking heck their business is. They're like, oh, this business is hard. Oh, I can't, these deals don't sell, I can't sell any of these deals. How many buyer conversations are you having? You're making hundreds of calls on the seller lead gen side. You generate 2 seller leads a day, possibly every single day, but you generate 0 offers month after month after month. I just spoke to a guy recently. And I'm like, okay, tell me a little bit about your business. He's like, yeah, last year I made about 180,000, but I keep making like the 150 to 180 to 200 range. I can't break the 200 number. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me a little bit about your business. I generate, 2 or 3 seller leads every day. I'm hitting the phones 300, 400, 500 calls a day every day. He's religious at it, great at it. He's a good prospecting agent. Wonderful. Check. I'm like, okay, well, how many offers have you made? He's like, since the beginning of this year, he's made 4 offers, gotten 4 signed offers and 0 accepted. I'm like, no shit, right? You submitted 4 freaking offers. Of course, you're not going to get, the ratio. You're not like, it's not going to be 25% acceptance rate. So you have to keep this in mind where if you want more accepted business, you want more contracts, which I imagine every single person here wants more accepted contracts, right? Don't make it complicated, but you're not going to have a 10 or a 25% accepted ratio. You're just not. It's just like when you're prospecting for seller leads. Imagine if you guys generated a wonderful seller lead 1 out of every 4 calls you made. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Right? That'd be the greatest seller lead list in the entire world. I would pay you like $1 million for it. So it's like that's the same thing for buyer business. You need to think about it the same way, where obviously we'd love for every offer to get accepted, but that just doesn't happen. So every day, minimum, right? One day, Monday through Friday at least, 1 true offer a day. That means you're submitting 20 offers a month. So at least this way, I believe, at least our numbers show it, right? My team's numbers show it, where if we're an average agent who submits 20 offers a month is typically getting 1 accepted, right? Which is a 5% accepted rate. Obviously, the market's a little wonky right now. I'm imagining when, back in, especially for me personally, it was like a 10+% accepted rate when the rates were 4% or less. But for right now, it's about half that, right? We're doing twice the work for half the results, right? Because the interest rates are a little bit high. So if we're seeing a 5% accepted rate, if you do 20 offers, which is Monday through Friday, once a day, every day for a month, that's a 1 offer, 1 contract accepted a month, right? Who here would like to have 1 contract accepted minimum a month, right? 100%, I agree, right? And guess what? The only thing you need to do is generate 2 seller leads a day, 1 offer a day. That's it. That's the simplicity of this business.